Hello and welcome everyone. The time is now 4 o'clock, so we are going to get started with the quick welcome. In the chat, we have some people who are viewing from Ketchikan and all over Southeast, so we're really excited to get started. We have a room full of about 14 people here today, and this is going to be live streamed on the Catholic Community Services Facebook page. So welcome to all who are joining us today. My name is Erin Youngstrom. I'm the Fund Development and Outreach Coordinator for Catholic Community Service, and I am excited to welcome you to this Zoom webinar. For those of you who have never done a Zoom webinar today, there are a few ways that you can be interactive. One way is in the chat box here on Zoom, and that's already getting started. So if you go down on the bottom panel, it's going to say chat. If you want to click on that, that can see people interacting throughout our panel today. And then another way, if you want to ask pointed questions to our panelists, make sure that you click on the Q&A button and you can submit a question that you would like to be answered during our webinar today. And I would like to say thank you to our event sponsors, Bartlett Regional Hospital and Harbor Health Family Clinic. Really thankful for your support. They are helping us have this on Zoom so that we can reach everyone all over Southeast and not just be a Juneau event. So thank you once again for joining us today. At this time, I am going to welcome our moderator, Denise. Going to promote her to a panelist. And she is going to talk about the Caregiver Education Speaker Series.
Hi there. Welcome to our annual Caregiver Education Series. My name is Denise Darby. I work for Southeast Seniors as a family caregiver support advocate. I also manage the Senior and Caregiver Resource Center in Juneau. November is National Caregiver Month. In Alaska, it is projected by 2025, there will be approximately 140,000 people aged 60 and over. It is also projected in Alaska, the population aged 80 and older will triple in the next 30 years. Currently, approximately 18 to 20% of residents living in Alaska are 60 and older. These statistics make clear how important it is for all Alaskans to educate themselves on issues and challenges facing our caregivers and elders. Normally, the Caregiver Education Series is held at the Juneau Library. However, due to COVID, we have adapted to an online format. A benefit of hosting the education series online is the opportunity for all Southeast Alaskans to attend. So to everyone attending from Ketchikan to Skagway, I would like to extend a special welcome. For the following 4 Wednesdays, you will have the opportunity to hear from experts whose careers have been devoted to helping and caring for our most precious population, our elders. These experts will address the issues and challenges facing caregivers and elders in Southeast Alaska. The topic of today's webinar is navigating senior services. To discuss this topic is Jennifer Garrison, Caregiver Support Regional Coordinator and Program Manager for the Bridge Adult Day Center. Jennifer has worked for Catholic Community Services for 3 years, but has been working with elderly patients and clients since 2009. Jennifer has worked as a CNA at the Pioneer Home, Wildflower Court, and at the Bartlett Hospital. Jennifer has also owned her own home care business. Jennifer Carson is the Director of Hospice and Home Care for Catholic Community Services. Jennifer has worked for Catholic Community Services for nearly 9 years and has been the Director of Hospice and Home Care of Juneau for 5. She has also over 25 years of experience in community-based care, mainly focusing on mental health. Eileen Hosey is a case manager for Southeast Senior Services. Eileen has been working for Southeast Senior Services for 13 years. Before working at Southeast Senior Services, Eileen worked in the healthcare field for 25 years. Eileen also has 20+ years of personal experience as a caregiver caring for her parents and grandparents. Welcome, everybody. Eileen, you're muted if you want to unmute yourself.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, hi, everybody. Since we have two Jennifers, I hope you don't mind if I refer to you as Jennifer G and Jennifer C. I thought, the topic of today's panel and kind of kicking off this caregiver education series is to kind of go from the general today's topics that we're going to understand, and then in the later next week and for the following 3 weeks, kind of focus more on specific topics. So I thought it would be a good idea for us to talk about as the person that runs the Senior and Caregiver Resource Center. I receive calls from people from all over Southeast Alaska. And some of these calls are people who need care for their elders. Some of the calls are from elders themselves. And some of those needs are, a person needs hearing aids, a person needs a fall detection system, a person needs help with their elders, somebody to coming into their home, or it might even be as simple as somebody to shovel the driveway. I have other calls for people, referring people to hospice and home care. People don't know what to do when they're in a situation when somebody they know is in need of hospice and home care. And I have calls, people calling who need counseling services, or they need the number to Meals on Wheels, or they want to know about the access van. And then we also have people who need help with people coming into their homes, our case managers like Eileen. So I thought what we would do is give a brief overview of what Southeast Seniors does. Jennifer, many people phone the Resource Center unclear as to what types of services Southeast Senior provides. Would you please give us a short rundown on the Family Caregiver Support Grant and the services Southeast Senior provides?
Of course. We have several programs for seniors throughout Southeast Alaska, such as the Caregiver Support Program. And that program, that requires the senior to be over 60, and they must have a designated unpaid caregiver. And that could be a friend, a relative, a neighbor. They just can't be receiving any kind of money to take care of that person. If you just call and check on somebody on a regular basis, make sure they're doing okay, you can be considered a caregiver. The caregiver doesn't have to live with the senior. They don't even have to reside in the state of Alaska to qualify. The goal of that program is to support the caregiver in any way we can, just to make their lives easier. And many people find the grants we provide for respite, chore, or personal care services are very helpful. Respite, for instance, allows the caregiver some time away to do what they need to do, run errands, have some time for self-care. And they can leave their loved one in capable professional hands and not have to worry about them. So that's something that they really look forward to. And they also provide chore services that can come in. Usually it's maybe for an hour a week. Someone can come and help you with household chores. The personal care assistance, if somebody needs help with bathing or any other issues like that. Gosh, I think one common misconception about that program is that we'll pay people to care for their family members. And that's not what the grant is intended for. We will support the caregiver any way we can, but we don't pay them money to care for their loved ones. And this program is not income-based. So preferably, we like to help those that need help the most first, but it's open to everybody as long as they're over 60 and have an unpaid designated caregiver.
Okay, you mentioned the idea of one of the questions I get, and I think it's kind of oftentimes people will call the resource center and they have, or they're under the impression that we provide services for people all day, every day. And so Jennifer Carson, that's more the services that we apply or we offer through the grant, the home caregiver grant. That is for maybe once or twice a week for an hour. If people need more extensive care, that comes under what you do in terms of home care, correct? And I was wondering if you could speak about hospice and home care.
Yes, yes. So we provide under Hospice Home Care of Juneau, we have 3 different programs that we have. The first one I want to talk about is our home health program, in which someone is referred to us by their physician. One of the misconceptions is that we come in and we will move in, or we will provide all day long, all night long type nursing. You have a nurse come in all day. That is not what we do. Our nurses or physical therapists, occupational therapists, social worker may come in a couple times a week. Maybe it's because you just had surgery and you have a wound and need some nursing care with that, or maybe it's some rehab by a physical therapist or occupational therapist to get you. The goal really is to get you back to your baseline because you've had an illness or injury that has caused you to be in your home, and it's really difficult for you to get out and maybe receive nursing services at your doctor's office, or hard to go to outpatient physical therapy. So we can come into the home and help get you well. So it's really on a short-term type basis. It's on pretty special cases that we would keep you on for years on our home health service. Then for hospice care, that's our end of life care. So a doctor will deem you eligible for hospice. So again, has to come from your physician, that you have 6 months or less if your disease process takes its normal course. And the main goal of hospice is to keep someone comfortable in their home while they're transitioning through that end of life. We provide a lot of education and support to family caregivers as well during that time, a lot of education about what to expect, because it can be kind of scary, especially during that transition period. Again, we do not move in. Again, another misconception, we don't take over as caregivers, but what we do is we support the caregiver. So we may come in once or twice a week as well. Under hospice services, we have our nurse, we have chaplain to provide spiritual. And I want to let you know that under chaplain services, it is absolutely not about proselytizing or helping you find God or anything like that. It is much more of a helping you where you're at and what your belief system is in a support manner. We have a social worker available, but again, that is more for that emotional support, resource support as well. We have bereavement services. Those bereavement services extend to 12 months after your loved one has passed. And then we also have CNA when we have a CNA available. And then our third program is Friends of Seniors. It's our newest program. It is a volunteer-based program to anyone 60 and older. The other 2 programs do not have an age restriction on them, but Friends of Seniors, you have to be 60 or older. Those services are anything that is non-medical. So we do things like maybe some light housekeeping, maybe doing the shoveling this winter, maybe doing grocery runs for you. Or it can just be a companion. We have a couple of volunteers who just come in and they have once a week pizza nights just for fun. So it doesn't have to be something so structured, but more on that fun basis. For both hospice and home health, we bill all major insurances. But I think the beauty of this program being a charity coming from Catholic Community Service is that we do not charge anybody for anything that is not covered by your insurance. So you'll never receive a bill from us. So even if you don't have an insurance, we are not going to bill you. Friends of Seniors is free of charge as well. That's a grant-based program. All of our services, unfortunately, are just Juneau based. We're hoping to maybe branch out with Friends of Seniors here within the next year or so. The other service that we have that's limited to Juneau is we have a loan closet with many different types of medical equipment, such as walkers, wheelchairs, bedside commodes, shower chairs, that we have available to loan out, again, free of charge to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. That sounds like there's a lot going on. Eileen, so far we've been talking about through the Family Caregiver Support Grant, supporting caregivers. Jennifer Garrison mentioned how you kind of, like the services through caregivers, but you work differently. You work with the seniors themselves, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so one of the questions that I get a lot is, I mean, I have people that call, either they are the elder themselves or they have an elder that they're concerned about. And one of the things is they just don't know what to do. So I take the call and I'll send you an email. And I was wondering if you could kind of work us through the process of what happens after I send you an email and then what you do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you, Denny. Well, our perspective is probably different than the other divisions in that we try to help seniors and their families put their lives kind of back in order, because a lot of times things have spun out of control, and often in little increments here and there, someone is not able to do it. The shopping is often, they can't clean the house, they've had a medical event, the caregivers are stressed. So when we get a referral from any source, we hope to do a home visit and establish a good relationship with the client, because our job is to be the advocate for the client, understanding what that person needs, what they want, and then what services either our organization or community-based organizations can provide. So we try to do a real thorough intake in a general sense, and we talk a lot about how would you like to see things going in your life? What would you like to have happen? If you got Meals on Wheels, it would take some of the responsibility away from your daughter having to come over all the time because you feel guilty about that, and the daughter's coming from work or the son is coming over. That happens quite a bit. Or a sensitive issue like continuing to drive. If that becomes an issue of contention, we have alternate transportation sources. We have literature to read about judging your driving abilities. And we talk about in-home services such as someone to come and help with housework on occasion. And are they able to do the daily activities that keep their lives progressing? So one big thing that I like to talk about is realistic independence, because as we age, we want to stay independent, and we think we're being independent, and we don't want anybody to help us, but sort of deep down inside, we know we might benefit from a little help. And I try to get the idea across that accepting help enhances your independence instead of deterring from it. Because if someone helps you in an area that you're struggling, then that frees you up to live your best life in other areas. And I mean, I found that out firsthand. I've been a caregiver. Watched my parents care for my grandmothers, watched my sisters care for our parents. And then I was a caregiving recipient when I had knee surgery, and I was sure I could do it all myself. And how I quickly learned, number one, I needed help. Number two, how difficult it was to ask for help. And so I can relate to a lot of what my clients are experiencing. And during this time of the pandemic, the social isolation that many seniors are facing can be a real difficult challenge. So we try to get, we talk about the Bridge program, Friends of Seniors, organizing the Meals on Wheels, and someone comes to see you every day. You get a little visit. And then other things, safety around your home. Seniors are more at risk of falling, and the statistics are daunting. And so, we help them look for areas in their homes that are unsafe, little, throw rugs, magazines by your chair, all those kinds of things. And
Well,
so
I was just going to say, Eileen, that I agree with you that I think one of the features of our seniors in Southeast Alaska and our elders is that they're an incredibly stoic, independent bunch, which can be at times really awesome, and then at times frustrating for others who are trying to help them, and they're just convinced that this is what they want and this is the way they're going to live. So that is an issue. I was wondering, Erin, do you want to go ahead and put out the first poll, since we're kind of talking about that? The biggest issue as a caregiver, providing care for an elder, which is the following the biggest issue you face in caring for your elder? If this is the first of 3 polls that we thought we'd put out. These are anonymous polls, so no one knows, but it would be valuable for us to get the feedback from the community in trying to focus our services for you, to get to know you better. And so if you would go ahead, if you feel so inclined to go ahead and fill out that poll. Jennifer Carson or Jennifer C, there was somebody that had a question asking, is there a wait list for Friends of Seniors?
Sure. It depends on what it is that you're after. We try really hard to match the recipient of service with a volunteer, one that because we really focus on the relationship and what that relationship might look like. Just like Eileen was saying, there's so much isolation going on. And so the more that we can focus on that relationship and building that, the more success that we tend to have, and we can really build upon that relationship. For instance, we had a friend who was going in and just was delivering groceries. Well, then it turned into more, where now that friend was turning into an advocate for them. Actually saw that they left their stove on, and so they were in an unsafe situation, and luckily that friend came over and was able to shut the oven off or the stove off as well, and now they become friends, like true friends. So it's really wonderful how those things blossom. So I'm sorry I can't give you a distinct answer as to if we have a wait list or not, but it really goes back to are we or how we match people, and do we have someone available?
There's one thing that I wanted to mention that you said, Jennifer, about how some of these friendships just kind of spontaneously form, and then people become caregivers. And one of the things that's important with the caregiver grant is that you don't have to be a family member. And there's a story of I have a client who was best friends with this fellow. The guy, they met on the water. His new friend helped him repair his engine, and they became friends. And years later, the fellow died. And this client told his friend that he would take care of his wife and make sure, so he contacted me for a fall detection system. So these kinds of friendships are really important. The amount of work that's being done in the community that are not necessarily relatives, that there are community members and stepping up and doing this kind of work and just reaching out. Jennifer Garrison, Eileen mentioned the Bridge, and and then Jennifer Carson mentioned an individual care, getting to know that person. And the times that I've worked at the bridge, I think the bridge is highly unique and a wonderful, wonderful place. And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the bridge.
Of course. Here at the bridge, we offer therapeutic services to adults over the age of 60 who are physically frail or people of any age with Alzheimer's disease or related dementias, or other cognitive impairment like traumatic brain injury. A lot of times folks are, maybe there's a changing home situation, maybe they want to prevent institutional placement as long as possible, or they simply just want to enjoy the company of other people during the day. But the bridge is a great place to come for that. We offer mental and cognitive stimulation, physical activity, social environment, all kinds of fun activities and games, everything designed to stimulate things and keep them happy and engaged. It is also a grant-based program. We do have a sliding scale for folks. And gosh, what else can I say? It's a great place to be.
Well, I was just thinking the thing that's so unique about the bridge is it's so uninstitutional. And the other thing that was unique was the individualized like program per person. The times that I've been there, I mean, could you speak a little bit? Like, it seems like that there's different things going on every day, depending who's there. So as
Yeah, we really try to individualize our activities for the people that are here. There's actually an enrollment packet that asks a lot of questions about the person, their likes, dislikes, a lot of what their history has been like. So we kind of know what they need to feel comfortable and be happy here. And that's what we're trying to do, is just make sure they're happy, safe, and stimulated. And the individualized plans really help with that. We base our calendar of activities that day, on what that person enjoys the most. So
how many people at this time how many people attend at a time? Now, we're not at full capacity. So what's the situation with the bridge there?
Currently, we're doing pod programming, which it limits the amount of people that come all at once. We used to have a full house 5 days a week, all day long. But now we have two groups of people that come. We have a morning group and an afternoon group, just to kind of keep the social distancing where it needs to be, keep everybody safe. We do a ton of cleaning around here. We have 2 days that we do all day long programming for some of our clients that need a little bit more support. But those are, we have 4 people that are here together all day long, and they stay in the same group. So,
and they form friendships.
Oh yes, they really missed each other. When we all had the lockdown due to COVID, when they started coming back to the bridge, they were really asking about their friends and how is this person and when is this person coming back? So yes, it's very, very good friendships.
Okay, Jennifer Carson, you mentioned volunteers, and I think one of the things that is kind of consistent through all of Southeast Seniors, Hospice and Home Care, all the services that Catholic Community Services offer is a real call to volunteers. And can you explain what the volunteers do for Hospice and Home Care and what the volunteers do for Friends of Seniors?
Absolutely. So 2 very distinct programs as discussed before. So we do vet all of our volunteers. I want to give that confidence out to the community, that they go through a background check, a screening, before they're ever allowed to go into the home. For hospice, They do have quite a bit of training that they get. We don't want to send somebody in who may not understand some of what transitioning through that end of life might look like, because a volunteer could come in and provide some respite to a family member, short-term respite. So maybe an hour or two so they can go take a nap, maybe go do a personal errand, or go jump in the tub for take a walk, do something to rejuvenate themselves. And it may be that they just sit with the individual who's on hospice care. It doesn't mean that they have to interact. They can come in and maybe do some light housekeeping, maybe some laundry, maybe cook a meal, anything like that that can help support the family through this transition. So it's really just a wonderful, beautiful thing. Again, building on that relationship. And then a lot of times we find that the volunteers do support even during that bereavement period as well. For Friends of Seniors, again, we vet all of our volunteers through the normal Catholic Community Service background check process. Again, because we know that our seniors are vulnerable, and we want to send people in that we have the utmost confidence in, that they're not going to do something to take advantage or harm any of our seniors. Again, we do some onboarding with them, especially depending on what kind of role they want to play as a volunteer as well, just to make them feel supported by us, and what those expectations are. Yeah, so for our volunteers, they do have to be 18 or older. We know that there's a lot of high school groups out there that would love to volunteer with us, but unfortunately our funding sources won't allow that to happen. So there might be other ways that they could help behind the scenes, but actually going out with people, we can't have that. But we'll take anybody 18 and older to go out. And so if you have a desire to come and volunteer with us, give us a call. And we're happy to kind of walk through any questions that you have and talk about what skills, where you see that your service could be needed. Because I think for Friends of Seniors, there's endless possibilities, as long as it's not medical in nature that you want to do.
Okay, the results from our poll are in, and lack of services was number one. Thanks everybody for participating. Hey, Erin, do you want to launch the next poll? Let's see, she's going to do that. In the meantime, how would you say COVID has affected your ability to care for your elder? And if you would go ahead and pick one. And thank you everybody for participating. Eileen, you were talking about realistic independence, and reframing independence. One of the things I've noticed is that our seniors in Southeast are a perfect example of having the Alaskan spirit. Many of the seniors I have met and spoken to are fiercely independent. And I was hoping that there was a bit of a difference in reframing independence and realistic independence. And I was wondering, Eileen, if you could talk a little bit about that. And by the way, because the poll had was lack of services, maybe you could also spend a little time talking about the people that you work, some of the other agencies that you interface. You've been doing this for so long. Everybody knows you, you know everybody. If you could kind of listen on that.
Right. Well, being a senior does have its advantages, right? Well, the fierce spirit of independence clashes with what I call realistic independence. But one of the hallmarks of our interactions is that we meet seniors where they are. And we don't have expectations that they're going to have to do something one way or another. And so what we try to do is offer them possibilities of certain things that they can choose. And then we introduce the topic, you know, of realism in that respect, that accepting help can be a good thing, and it can make your life easier. At the same time, we do have to recognize that people have the right to make poor choices, and that does sometimes happen. And the most important thing to remember, I think, for me and my colleagues is letting people know the consequences. If they do something, this might happen. If you don't do something, this might happen. And if you're comfortable with that, it is your life. That's part of the Alaska spirit, is the acknowledgement and respect for people's independent ways. And sometimes people do things that make their families and their case managers pull their hair. But we realize that we would want the same respect shown to us. So it's a big issue, and people appreciate letting them be themselves and be the best version of themselves. So we, once we've gone into a home and kind of assessed for what might be needed, we talk with the service agencies here in town. We talked if there's something that they might be able to use. We talk to the Caregiver Resource Center. We talk to Alaska Legal Services. If people need certain legal things, we help them if they need power of attorney or advanced directives. And one of the things we say is that it's always easier to get these things before an emergency. And so make it not so fearful. People who live alone, we talk about the life alerts or the life alert pendants that can be truly life-saving if you slip and fall. We talk about the bridge, because there are some people, for whom the isolation is just so wearing on them. Some people enjoy the quiet life. Others need the social interaction with others to really feel fulfilled. Talking about the Meals on Wheels, many people don't realize that the federal regulation is that every meal has to contain 1/3 of the minimum daily nutrient requirement for a senior. I mean, that's a big mouthful, but seniors have pretty special dietary needs. They need to eat enough food to stay healthy. What else do we do? We just...
You do a lot, Eileen. I think you do more. You do more, and you've forgotten more than most of us know. So,
I think just one other thing I would like to add, Denny, is that we acknowledge, often the caregivers are there too, we acknowledge how hard it is to be a caregiver, and we help the families get a sense that there can be a plan to move forward, to help the family, to help the senior, to help the caregivers and the friends and the neighbors. So it's really a broad perspective that we like to deal with.
Jennifer, Garrison, I was wondering, besides Southeast Seniors, besides the Resource Center and the Family Caregiver Support grant that we administer, and the bridge, what other services are out there that other services that Catholic Community Services has? Just touch on those briefly. I know, Jennifer Carson mentioned the lending closet, and Eileen mentioned Meals on Wheels. Just briefly touch on what the other services in terms of seniors, things that are available for seniors.
Yeah, well, Catholic Community Service has 11 senior centers throughout Southeast Alaska where folks can go and get a hot, nutritious meal and socialize. Those are great places to go. We also have Caravan, which is now Capital Access, formerly known as Caravan. Like Eileen mentioned, the Meals on Wheels program. We also have support groups. We do a Parkinson's support group that we facilitate. Gosh, all kinds of things to offer.
Okay, the poll said that COVID has affected them. 55% said moderately, 45% severely. So that's no small thing. And one of the things that I've noticed, with the Resource Center is people trying to make do with what they have. And because of COVID, It's like you're navigating down side streets, trying to find an answer, trying to find a solution, trying to find help. Jennifer Carson, one of the fallouts from COVID has been this staffing shortage. And I think everybody that's listening, everybody has run into that. There's help wanted signs everywhere in Juneau. With regards to hospice and home care, how have the staffing shortages affected you?
Yeah, it's not been good. There's been a national shortage for nurses and social workers. That was pre-pandemic. It got worse once COVID hit. It is really difficult for us to find a nurse. We were branching out before this to travel agencies to try and find nurses and physical therapists, social workers. Now the travel companies are saying there's just nobody out there. That has caused us to have to go on a wait list for even hospice care. That's very difficult for us as an organization to put somebody who has 6 months or less to live potentially on a wait list and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's very difficult. So we've really been trying to do the best we can, because we also don't want to burn out the staff that we have, because we need them. We need them so desperately to continue to provide that care. So it's a delicate balance between providing that care and maintaining the health and well-being of the staff that we have amongst a pandemic, when any one of our staff could get sick at any time as well and be out of the office and not be able to provide care. So I think we've done a really good job. I am so proud to say that none of my staff have tested positive for COVID during this whole entire time. I can't thank them enough for, I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it right. And they've never stopped providing care either. So, and none of our patients that we have been in contact with have tested positive either. So we know that we're not spreading it from house to house, which was one of the concerns early on, was how are we going to go in and not spread it, especially when we were having a hard time finding PPE and stuff. So yeah, it's been a challenge. I think we're working through it the best we can. We're working really closely with the rest of the medical community to try and look at how can we bridge those gaps. So volunteers with Friends of Senior is a great way to bridge some of that gap. We can send volunteers in where maybe staff can't. They can't do the medical care, but at least they can go in and provide some of that other support. We also connect with Eileen and see where they can help maybe fill some of those gaps as well. So yeah, it's just been tough. So those of you on the call today, if you know a nurse or a physical therapist or a social worker who would love to move to Juneau or are in Juneau and they're looking for a job, send them my way. We would love to chat with them a little bit more about opportunities.
I have a call. I have somebody question. Do you have any advice for seniors on Medicaid who only qualify for PCS but can't find an agency to provide it? And oops, it just went away. Where did the?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. And don't have any natural supports nor a program like Friends of Seniors in their community. Okay. Does anybody have any answers for that?
I can address that.
Okay.
Perhaps. It relates back to the shortage of workers in the agency. So if they're in a community that doesn't have the services that, you know, if I knew what community they were in, that's the weak link. And natural supports. Boy, that's a tough one. That's
one thing that we can do, Eileen,
yeah.
is if we don't have the answers right now, one thing we can certainly tell the people that are attending is that, and this is what I say at the Resource Center, because unlike you guys, I have only been doing this for a short period of time and I'm not aware.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, Just give me a moment, let me figure it out, and I'll get
Yeah.
back to you.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that we've said here, or if anybody has any questions, the contact information will be given after the webinar, but always just call the Resource Center and we will find out some way to help you if we can.
Yeah. I'd like to add, if I have a minute or two, Denny, I was thinking of some other agencies that we work with to help people. Number one is SAIL, Southeast Alaska Independent Living, a variety of things with them. And then the VA, because the VA has a program for veterans called Voice, and it can bring a worker into your home. And it's a little different in that you can pick the worker. And so that's a good program to look into. We also help people. Surprising number of seniors don't know about the senior benefits program for seniors of very low income, and we can help them with those forms. And we also work with an agency of senior and disability services called Adult Protective Services. We are what's called mandated reporters. And if we visit a senior or hear about a possible instance of the senior in jeopardy in any way, or some compromise of their health or their living situation, we can contact Adult Protective Services, have a great conversation with the people there, and they will look into it. We also, if a senior thinks they're getting some financial exploitation, or if they don't understand why certain things are coming out of their checking accounts, there's so much fraud out there now, and a lot of bogus calls go to seniors in kind of a semi-threatening way. And so seniors sometimes are afraid, and then they do what they've been told, and I mean, it's fraud. I've even gotten a couple of those calls. They say they call and they say, "Grandma, it's me," and you immediately your grandma nerves go into overdrive, and they want you to send them money. So we work closely with those agencies, with SAIL, Adult Protective Services. We work closely with the 2 service agencies in town, and they are working very hard to provide hours and services to people who really desperately need it. We work with case management at Bartlett Hospital when people are being discharged and they have certain needs that we can perhaps help with, and that's all I can think of for the moment.
Okay,
Also-
Jennifer, you were going to say something, right?
To help answer that question, through the National Family Caregiver Support Program, no matter what community you're in Southeast Alaska, we can get those respite grants going, as long as we have the grant money available, personal care, chore. So even if you don't have an agency in your community, there's ways around that. So we can work with you and try and get you the help you need, as long as you have somebody that can be a designated caregiver for you. And like I said, that person doesn't even have to live in the state of Alaska. So
Yeah. Okay, Erin, do you want to put up the 3rd poll? I want to touch on something just briefly, and then we'll close up. One of the questions that I get a lot is, and this is part of the being prepared, is people kind of are under the assumption or the belief that if that at any time that their loved one can go into a long-term care facility. And so Jennifer, would you just, maybe speak a little bit about that? And maybe, I know that because you have people at the bridge that are waiting, and things like that. I know that a new long-term care adult facility is being built, Riverview. It's supposed to be completed in 2024, but that really is one of the talk about lack of services. If you could just mention a little bit, some of the people, that's a call I get a lot.
Yeah, it's very difficult living in Juneau and Southeast Alaska in general if you're looking for long-term placement. A Riverview, I think, will help fill some of that void when they finally open up. but there's still, a lot of folks don't have options except for to leave the state or to go up north. So that's really sad. So we try and keep them out of the institution as long as possible through the services we provide.
Okay, I think maybe one thing we can all talk about, and Jennifer Carson, it kind of, the topic started with you in a staffing shortage with volunteer shortages and staffing shortages. And Jennifer Garrison and Eileen, you guys can talk a little bit about how that staffing shortage is affecting us at Southeast Centers in our ability to administer this grant. Jennifer?
G or C?
Jennifer Garrison, sorry.
Okay. It really, there's a wait list for services. So we've got folks that need the help. Even when we have the grant money and we're ready to go through with it, a lot of the agencies don't have the staff to cover the hours. So those folks are waitlisted, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that. So it really has had a huge impact on the services we can provide.
Yeah, Eileen, do you have any in your job as a case manager? Have you run into how staffing shortages within our agency, within Southeast Seniors, how that's affected you, or has it had any effect on you?
With you in relation to the clients?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. People who have, there's a few different kinds of personal care services or personal care assistance. One is through the state of Alaska, through the Senior and Disabilities. And after you've been evaluated, you get a certain number of hours a week. People get 3 to 12 hours a week. And if you get 12 hours a week, now you maybe only be able to get 3 hours because of the worker shortage. And so these are people who have really, demonstrated high degree of need. And so that is really tough. One thing I would say is anybody who is concerned about this should talk to your legislators, because they're the ones who make the budgets, and the budgets to fund personal care services through the state of Alaska. We always need money, and preventive care is so much more effective than coming in after the fact when somebody is really in need of what we call subacute nursing or something of that nature. So preventive care through the Medicaid waiver program, through the personal care services, through the different grants that are administrated. For one thing, you have to pay people a living wage who do this kind of work. It's arduous work. Most people who do it love it, but it's arduous work. Excuse me. It's probably emotionally taxing as well as physically demanding. And so people need to be compensated fairly. So it's usually in February, the AARP and AgeNet descend upon the legislature and talk to legislators about these situations. They are often very surprised. The legislators don't realize, they see this as numbers. We see it as people. We go into the homes and we see the people struggling. And so to get that message, call your legislator.
I have a question.
Yes.
Somebody has a question that says, I hear Medicare will pay for case management. Is this true? And who does this?
I've never heard of it. Our case management services are free. Medicaid's program, the Medicaid waiver program, you have somebody called a care coordinator, which is similar to a case manager in that sense, but not Medicare. Medicaid, the state program, but yeah, I've never heard of that.
Okay. But like before. I mean, if this person, you know, if they wanted more information, they could call the resource center. And we would certainly, you know, if we don't have the exact answer right now, we can certainly find that answer.
Oh, if we don't know the answer, we usually know where to go to find the answer. They
Well,
can
you
call
do.
us
You
or
know where
call
to go
you.
to find it.
We'll dig around and find it.
I go to you.
Good.
It says outside caregiving, this was the last poll. Apart from caring for your elder, what personally is the biggest challenge you face daily? 11% said inadequate finances, 33% depression, 22% access to healthcare. Other is 11%, and caregiving is my only major challenge. So, you know, we only have a few minutes. As you know, 33% of the people said depression was an issue. And I think COVID has certainly, you know, made that worse for everybody. Does anybody want to throw out, Jennifer, you talk about the other service that we have?
Yes, we do have a counseling program for seniors. We have a licensed clinician that has groups and individual meetings with seniors that are struggling. She's a great counselor, and it's a really good program.
Okay, so, and then that if they were interested in that, they would call the resource center, and then
Yes, ma'am.
I would pass that on to the counselor. Well, we have 4 minutes left. I think this has been a great, you know, I think everything like turned out okay. One thing that I'd like to say, you know, when they talk about, and Eileen, you a little bit, is just sort of how people are kind of, because of the lack of services, because of the staffing shortage, the people, they're really a call to the community for people, because if we don't have the home care workers, if, you know, we have people who are in need, and we don't have the workers to help them, there are other organizations who are really stepping up for other things. And so as neighbors, people, if you have someone in your neighborhood or someone that you know that's a senior or needs help, you know, everybody's lives are so hectic and busy, but these people need your help. So does anybody have anything to say or anything that they want to add before we close?
We have a wonderful program called the Gatekeeper program, which specifically addresses those kinds of things. We've done presentations in banks, in grocery stores, at the post office, other kinds of places where you know, where you meet a lot of people, and it's a confidential referral. For instance, one bank called us because there was a person came in and there was confusion with their banking, and they seemed distracted and upset. And so we were able to get in touch with that person and help them through that time. Grocery store, the grocery stores have called us. The people that they have seen regularly for a long time begin for some reason to look disheveled and like something is going on. And so there's an event. And so then we do a very sensitive, confidential referral and see if we can help and try to assure the seniors that we are there as their advocate. We're not to tell them what to do.
Eileen,
Yes.
Somebody asked a question. Is that program limited to Juneau?
The Gatekeeper program? No, it isn't. Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
If you call us, we can refer to the right people.
Okay, Erin, is it about time to wrap things up?
It is about that time.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking your time and doing this. We were kind of didn't know how it was going to go, but you know, this is the first time many of us have done this kind of, we didn't know, but we've gotten fairly good response from the community. And thank you to everybody that attended. Everybody, I know for some people managing computers and getting into a webinar is a little bit daunting, but I think you guys did really well. Next week at the same time, our next guest will be Laura Wyman, and she is, or Wayman, She's the author of the book, A Loving Approach to Dementia Care. And Wayman provides the tools and inspiration to fight a battle where loss is not the inevitable outcome. So we hope to see everybody and more. Tell your friends and neighbors. And we hope to see everybody again next week at 4 o'clock.
Before you log
Erin?
off, could you also talk about the 2 sessions after next week as well, to have an overview of the whole schedule for the month?
You want me to do what?
Could you talk about the 3rd session and also the 4th?
Oh, okay. So then after that, we'll have Beth Chapman, who's an attorney, and she's going to talk about putting legal plans in place to allow those receiving care to express wishes for future care and decision. Learn the steps toward covering legal bases as a caregiver. That's one of the big deals with many of our seniors. They're just not ready. And so that would be a great, bring your notebooks and everything for that one. And then lastly, November 24th, Amber Smith is an education specialist at the Alzheimer's Resource of Alaska. Learn some tools for communicating in ways that work with all members of your caregiving team, including the person living with dementia. So, I mean, there's a lot going on, and I hope people, at least from today, found this informative and interesting. So we hope to see everybody next week. And thanks for coming.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Denny.
Denny.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.